It's December here in northern Vermont, and we still don't have any snow. We've had a few snowfalls so far this year, but not really any snow cover that stayed for any more than a couple of days. And we've had a lot of warm days too. I mean, this whole fall has been a crazy warm fall, where we should have been getting snows in late October all the way through November, and it should have been dipping well below freezing. But if I look at the past fall and what we've experienced weather-wise, it's been really, really warm, and it's not been snowy. And that is just weird. Now, some could argue that the lack of snow could just be natural variability in weather patterns. Snowfall can vary from year to year due to a range of factors, including changes in atmospheric circulation patterns, the presence of a certain weather system. This natural variability can lead to some years of having more snow than others, even within a given region. That's totally normal. But let's face the uncomfortable truth. All around the world, the weather has gotten weirder. Flooding, hurricanes, wildfires, they've become much more extreme. Crazy polar vortexes hitting the US southern regions. Crazy warm falls and winters hitting the Northeast. And so when I look at the fact that there's no snow on the ground here in northern Vermont in December, you have to be willing to acknowledge another possibility is that climate change is causing shifts in our snowfall patterns. As the global temperatures increase, some areas experience less snow than they used to, and that's definitely been the case for us here in Vermont, which along with the rest of the Northeast region of the United States has been experiencing significant warming and increased precipitation due to climate change. But that precipitation is not coming in the form of snow like we're used to, it's coming in the form of more rain in the fall and in the winter.
If you're wondering just how much snow is out here, I guess would be, I don't know, maybe a little less than a foot. Okay, hang on. Let's try my pole here. And there's a little more can go. That's the depth my pole went down, and it probably was maybe another ½ inch down below that. Guess that's about a foot? Yeah. It's a lot less snow than we should have this time of year, that I will say. If you look at our snowfall averages right now, it's way, way down this year. After having a couple of years where our snowfall numbers have been way, way down. And yeah, I absolutely believe climate change, and I believe that it's getting warmer in our winters. It makes me wonder what it's going to be like around here, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years from now. You know, I was actually reading a book by a local legendary farmer from this area, a guy by the name of George Kempton. George, who really kind of came up here in, I think, like the early 60s or late 50s and settled this farm, he kept a good diary, and it got turned into a book. If I can find a link for the book, I'll actually leave it down below. It's a great read. And in his book, which is like basically like a diary almost, he like documents just a lot of stuff. And to read his stuff from like the 70s, talking about how much snow has been here, and then to discover what we have now, it's definitely different. There's definitely a lot less. So in that, I don't know what, 40, 50 year time span, things have significantly changed. So I can't imagine what would happen if I'm, you know, in my, say, 80s and what it's going to look like.
I know a lot of folks out there like to say that climate change is a belief and it's a myth and that it's untrue, but that perspective is incorrect. Climate change is an objective truth. If you look at the scientific community over the past 25 years, there has been almost a complete consensus in the concept that we are experiencing an extreme shift in our climate, and that shift in climate is creating a crisis. And even if I look specifically here in Vermont, there's been a lot of those shifts. According to a new study by the University of Vermont, the average annual temperature has increased by almost 2 degrees, and precipitation has increased by 21% since 1900. The Vermont Climate Assessment of 2021, which is the state's first climate assessment since 2014, found that climate change is having an impact on many aspects of life here in Vermont, including farming, maple syrup production, skiing, droughts, flooding, and general winter weather. The study also found that 70 different bird species are expected to disappear from Vermont in the next 25 years due to climate change. And moose numbers are projected to decline significantly as well, while white-tailed deer populations are skyrocketing, and that's having a significant negative impact on the growth of young trees. And so if you think about what that means for our ecosystems here, it could become catastrophic. And then on the more recreational level, ski seasons in Vermont are becoming shorter and shorter, and they could be shortened by as much as a month by 2080, depending on emission scenarios. Now that might seem silly and superfluous, but when you recognize just how important that is as a contributor to the overall economy of Vermont, it's not anything to laugh at. And then when I look at what's going on here on our farm right now, it is not normal to not have snow on a farm in Vermont in December for a couple of reasons. First, Vermont is known for its cold and snowy winters, with average snowfall ranging from 35 inches in the southern part of the state to over 100 inches in the northern part. And December is typically one of Vermont's snowiest months. So the lack of snow on our farm in Vermont in December is a departure from the norm.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
Huh. Would you look at that? Looks like we finally got some snow last night. We got Molly Murder Mittens camped out inside the cat house. Ginny, where were you? I saw you on the camera last night camping upstairs in the barn. But it looks like we might actually have a white Christmas after all. But I do wonder how much snow we actually got. Let's take a look-see here. I don't know, Ginny. I think we got about 1.5 inches of snow down here. That's not enough snow to bust out the snowblower, but it does mean I got to start brushing off the cars. Good morning, Anne of Green Gables. How are you doing, sweetie? Hello, large white farm dogs. How's it going, guys? You seem pretty happy.
Now, please don't let this video feel like a scare tactic or a whole bunch of doom and gloom. I do believe that the climate crisis is a person-made problem, and I do believe that if we don't do something to counteract it, things are only going to get worse. But I also believe that there are things that we can do to impact the climate crisis. There are things that we can change both collectively and individually to address our problems. So what can we do to stop climate change? Well, one solution is to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and to switch to clean, renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power. By using clean energy, we can reduce the amount of greenhouse gases we release into the atmosphere, and that in turn can help slow down the warming of the planet. Another solution is to reduce our carbon footprint by using less energy and making more sustainable choices in our daily lives. That's something that needs to happen at a larger scale when you look at the behaviors of some of the world's largest nations and corporations, but it's also going to require actions at the individual level when we look at our own personal actions in our day-to-day lives and find ways to reduce our personal carbon footprints. That doesn't mean you need to be perfect. That just means you need to focus on improving. And then finally, something that's near and dear to my heart is to place greater emphasis on agricultural practices that sequester carbon, such as intensive rotational grazing of herbivores and increasing the use of perennial tree crops. When done at scale, these agricultural practices can have a massive impact. By coming together, we can make a difference and help protect our planet for future generations.
Woo! Well, that's one heck of a snowstorm. You always know it's serious when you can barely open the door. Hey, Ginny Barn Cat. So as I said earlier, I did not at any point think that there was not going to be any snow here in December in Vermont. My point is simply that if we are not careful, we are going to have a situation where one day in the future there may not be snow like this in Vermont. And we've got to really take the warning signs about climate change seriously And we've really got to understand that if we don't do something, things could be catastrophic all across the world. You know, I don't mean to be alarmist. You know, I don't mean to get people in a tizzy. This isn't me trying to get all political. This is just me calling out a trend that many scientists all around the globe are very, very focused on, and recognize that if we don't do something about it, we are going to be in a whole heck of a lot of deep doo-doo. We got some snow, huh? Huh? We got snow? Yeah. When I talk to my more libertarian-minded friends about the concept of climate change and doing something about it, they often look at me like I'm crazy, because they often see the concept of climate change and taking action against the climate crisis as something that's going to immediately curtail their freedoms. I can think of one person specifically who makes the argument of, hey man, I like driving my Charger and I won't eat Z-bugs. But I personally feel like a perspective like that is unfortunate. Like, could you imagine 30 or 40 years from now, if things continue to get worse on the trajectory that they're on, how stupid an argument that would be to your grandchildren, basically saying, sorry, sweetie, we could have taken action to fight off the climate crisis, but grandpa here wanted to drive his Dodge Charger. So I don't know, I don't think it makes that much sense to me why folks are so dug in when you talk about the concept of the climate crisis. And when you look at the science and you look at the extreme consensus around the globe on the need to take action against climate crisis and what's going on, I personally wish we could all come together and just have more good faith conversations on unique ways to fight this problem. Abby dog, are you barking at Pablo? Is he teasing you? And Pablo, are you starting stuff? Hey buddy. Sweetie, it's okay. It's okay.